Hello, everyone. It's good to see you this afternoon. Just barely afternoon where I'm at, but it is 1 minute afternoon. And today I have Abby and Stefani here with me. We're going to talk about weekly review and how it looks for different people and at different times. That I hope that one of the big takeaways that you'll get from this meetup is that there isn't one right way to do a weekly review, and you learn what you need in your weekly review just by doing it and adjusting and learning as you go. That's iterating. So Stefani is the community manager at inside Convivial Circle. So you've seen her there if you are in Convivial Circle, and Abby is also super active in Convivial Circle. And so I thought it'd be fun to bring them on video and talk today. So good to see everyone. All right. So Stefani, you want to start with maybe what your first reactions were when you first started hearing about weekly review stuff? Because I think that was before simplified organization and courses, right?
No.
Or was that where you heard about it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I joined, and you were doing a new year, new attitude for 2017. That I joined right before that. So yes, all the courses were there. So when I heard about the weekly review, so I'm sure people have heard my story before, but just a quick recap, like I felt everything in my life was chaotic and all I did was put out fires. And I said, fine, I will buy everything that Mystie sells and I will do it. And whatever she says, I will do it, even though I don't understand what I'm doing. So I did. And she said, she said that the weekly review was the linchpin. And I said, okay. So I started doing my weekly review, and I only miss my weekly review when I'm on vacation now. And, she used to put at the bottom of the weekly review emails, hit reply and let me know you've done it. And I did it like every week. They were like, who is this crazy gal? I'm sure. But I said, okay, well, if she says it's important, then I will go ahead and do it. And so I did. And so that's how I got started, even though I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And just, you feel like you're muddling through at the beginning. Like, how is this helping? What's going on here? But it was just a matter of just keep doing it. Just keep doing it. Figure out what you need to do, what you don't need to do, but you can't figure those things out until you just start and do it. Even if you feel dumb or, about it, you just need to do it anyway.
Oh, Abby, you're muted. She's restarting.
How about now?
There you go.
Okay,
there
so my mic dropped, and then I did a mic drop, and then it muted me. So it was an accident. I bumped it off the table. Okay, so I totally responded to Mystie's email too, like a nerd that I am. And when I first did my first one, I put it into like a nice Word document newsletter format with pictures.
And she sent it.
And I sent it because I was like, yeah, okay, I'm going to do this. So I started out with like way too high of expectations of myself. But Mystie very sweetly sent me back really good feedback. And it was the beginning of our real life friendship or our real life relationship. Because I really feel like people on the internet need to be like, I needed to introduce myself to her because I was like, I really like your stuff. And I know we can be friends if you just knew me. So I'm just going to start laying the groundwork for a real friendship. So, and this worked out for me. Or at least Mystie is still pretending to be my friend. So, So I started out really with that. But after that, I was like, well, that's not sustainable. And I think that that's one thing that, simplified organization, and so much of what Mystie talks about is like, it has to be sustainable. It has to be something you can do even in the worst possible week. So I just started taking it from there. But what that kind of newsletter thing kicked off for me was really seeing what I actually accomplished. I can actually remember what I did. I did a before and after, like almost a transformation Tuesday of my homeschool cupboard, because it'd been a project that had been nagging me for a while. And I was like, I got to do this to get it better. So, that's when I started, and I don't even remember when that was, but it was a long time ago. So probably similar to that time. But yeah, and now it's just something that either I can sit down at one time and do, or on certain days or where it's really a busy week, I take it in little chunks at a time. So it's totally this flexible piece now that I have, because I've been practicing it for so long, I can kind of know when it can fit in, but it's something I don't miss, like Stefani said. And vacations, yeah, I might give it up on vacations, but it feels weird not doing it, even not on a vacation. Like, wait, I'm missing something. Like, yeah. So anyway,
I just looked it up, and it was September 2016.
oh my gosh. See, that's really embarrassing, and don't ever show anyone, because it's
I was
probably
thinking I could screen share.
Yeah.
Weekly review.
So that's I'm a big nerd, and that's, I also like to do things well. So but I knew that wasn't going to be sustainable. So I did dial it way back and just started a lot smaller after that. So, but it did give me kind of the vision of what I needed to do, kind of like listing out the things that did get done, because in that season, in 2016, all my kids were, 10 and under. So I had 5 kids in 5.5 years. And so at that point, my twins were maybe just barely 5, and my oldest was 10. And so that's a lot of littles and a lot of people to deal with, and a lot of like new school stuff that was happening. And so it was really good for me to have something where I could just have kind of this hour of sanity. And we don't do this so much anymore, but when my kids were that little, I would put in a movie, pop everyone a bunch of popcorn. They would be totally entertained, because we didn't watch, at that point, we were watching movies 1 day a week. That is no longer the case. But we were watching like movies 1 day a week. And so that's when they would get this special TV time. And I would do mine, and, completely contented for an hour and a half or whatever the movie was. And I could really sit and think, because that's one thing when you have that many littles and a loud, chaotic house, just having that time to focus and actually think through things for that week and the next week was just so helpful. And it just really revolutionized how I thought about my home and my homemaking and parenting. So, yeah.
So what are some of the things that changed in your weekly review from when you started and you like realized, oh, that's not going to work, or I don't need to do that?
Stephanie, you want to go?
Oh, okay. Well, being the nerd that I am, I wrote down all the things that I can remember that I've changed over the last 4 years. So it was just lots of different things. So one of the things I thought was funny that I did, that I don't even think about anymore, but I named the sections of my weekly review. Like, you're a CEO, like you're the chief executive officer. So I named the section chief educational officer, and I'm a chief nutritional officer. Like, it made me realize this is an important job.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't just me inventing tasks to do on a Saturday morning. This is important work. This is me serving my family and managing these tasks. So that was one thing I did, was I gave them names that sounded important, even though I don't even read the names anymore. But it made me look at the sheet at the beginning when I first did it to say, no, this is important work. So it kind of helped me shift my mindset. I've added and subtracted different things for my weekly review. So I added in meal planning. I took away finance review. I added in homeschool printing and filing, which used to be something I did during interval weeks. Now I do it weekly, and everybody's different. Everybody would say, oh, I don't want to do my meal planning then. Oh, I do want to do my meal planning then. It's whether you want to do it that week or for an interval, it doesn't really matter. You have to figure out the timing that works for you. And I actually don't do much meal planning. It's more checking for the ingredients because the meal plan is done and I don't have to touch it anymore forever if I want. So, and some other things I did was I used to have more work on the sheet, but I moved that to other places. Like I have like to figure out the meal ingredients. I don't do that on the sheet anymore. That's in a separate Excel spreadsheet, but my review list still tells me to go and do it, just not there. And then another big thing was I included blank space for brain dumping and put questions that were pertinent for me on there with a small amount of space for each. So I can't, go crazy with the brain dumping, but I needed a space to write and I needed help to know what to write about.
So do you print out a sheet then every time you do a weekly review and work through it? Is that how you do it?
I print out my weekly review checklist on the back of my dashboard.
Okay.
My weekly review sheet is 2 pages and my dashboard has other things on its backside. So I just have it along there, but it's next to it. So I can do that. I have changed some things around as well. Mostly my weekly review list is kind of like a checklist, but I do have some boxes for space if I need to write something down. But I am a pen and paper person, whereas Stefani is totally digital, almost on everything except like brain dumps. And you probably throw away that stuff after you've entered it in, right, Stefani?
Yeah, so I throw away the dashboard and the review when I'm done.
And I do too, but it's still the important process of it. But I think with a pen in hand, I can't do it on the computer. I get too distracted doing things. So that is one difference between us, but we both have similar principles in a lot of the ways we do things. So one of the things that I kind of try to do is to get myself ready to do a weekly review. I take out my vocation statements. And if you haven't done that yet, no big deal. But that just helps me kind of get into my mindset. So I get my vocation statements out and I read them. And then I have a word of the year and I kind of have an alignment sheet with that. And so I read that because that really helps me to kind of know what I'm about this year, which this year is to enjoy and delight in things and my family. So I just kind of have my verses and my quotes that I kind of just want to keep doing with that. And I don't get to do that every morning. As much as I would love to have that every morning, it just doesn't happen. So I always make sure it happens in the weekly review. And then I have my annual goals that I've set up for myself. And so I go over those. So that's how I start off my weekly review. And then I go pretty quickly through what worked last week, what didn't. Did I get my weekly top 3 completed, which always includes homeschooling. And I kind of look over that. I have a pretty good logbook for what we've done in school. So I don't have to do as much review on my homeschool list anymore. So that's, as the years have gone on, I don't have to review as much of that. I used to have 2 weekly reviews, one for school, one for homemaking kind of stuff. But now that as I've gotten better and more prepared and and keeping track of things, it just works out really, really well. So yeah, and I've done where I do pay bills and where I don't, but usually I just kind of have an office time where I do a bunch of bills online, and I don't necessarily do that in my weekly review anymore. So, but I do update. I've been tracking my spending, and so I've been trying to keep receipts and then just track it. And that's when I have been doing that. But that's just because I'm focusing on, finance right now. So most of the time I just make sure I check all my calendars, make sure everything's updated there, because that is the big one. And I try to write down like even the little things, like even online things, because I'll be like, oh yeah, I remember that Misty always has something on Thursdays at noon. And then I'm like, oh, I missed it again because, I think I have it. So I just write it all down and I make sure that it's in front of my face. Sometimes I have to set reminders for myself. And then I do have my meal plans kind of already done, but since we buy or we already have all of our meat in my freezers, I just have to make sure I have to pull it out for the week. And so I make sure that I write those down on the days so that I have it already prepared. And any prep notes is more of what I'm doing, since I already kind of have my, 10 or 12 week meal plans by theme. It works out. But yeah. So, and then I just have a little, checklist of things. And, if I kind of have some ideas, and like we always have projects or decluttering. If I need to do anything, I just kind of start listing those things out, kind of a brain dump, but I have it by vocation. So home, husband and family relationships. Hospitality is a big thing for us. We always are having people over, or we're doing meals somewhere, like at my in-laws. I'm a better cook than my mother-in-law. She willingly admits this. It's not a point of contention. We live along great. In fact, she would just pay me to make all their meals if it were possible. So we will do that. And I consider that kind of hospitality. So we make sure that we have things for that, like inviting who we're going to do and what we're going to prepare. And then homeschool, if I need to, do anything, or what week it is, so that I'm on schedule. And I have one for happiness and habits. So the things that I'm doing that I love, like, which is reading and exercise and connecting with people. And then habits, just the habits that I'm working on that week. So I am fairly organized, and it's because of the weekly review that I feel really organized. And if I just don't know what to do, I just look at my dashboard or my weekly review and it's there. I already have a plan when I have this in place. And so it just takes all that decision fatigue out and all the overwhelm out, because I've taken, an hour of my time, maybe sometimes it's shorter. And I've made all the decisions in one time. And so therefore I can just look at my plan, and it's a great plan. And I used to not like to follow my own plans because they weren't realistic. I think that's what it was. But now that I've been doing this for years, I have a really good handle on what's realistic. And so I make better plans. So that's why that going back and seeing what worked and what doesn't really is an essential piece, so that you can make realistic plans, right? I know by the time it's Thursday and Friday, I am not going to make a fussy meal in the evenings. I'm not. I'm done. I don't want to. So I always have a crock pot meal or something that I can pull out of the freezer. But that took me years of planning elaborate meals on Thursdays and Fridays, and then it never happening. And then me being like, I just can't do it. I'm too tired. And then we're eating, something quick, or, do you want cereal? So this is much better. So, okay. Yes, realistic plans are really, really helpful, but that's through iteration and just figuring out, troubleshooting what works and what doesn't. So,
yeah. So Stefani, you said that, you were just doing it, kind of trusting the process and feeling dumb at first doing it, or the planning felt dumb. So how did that change over time, or at what point, or was there a certain practice or just time doing it where it shifted into seeing the value?
I think maybe, I started seeing the value within the first couple of months. I don't have to run to Aldi on Thursday because I keep forgetting, that one odd item, that I needed, that can of pineapple, the weird thing. So I saw that in the first couple of months, but it really all came together probably about 6 months in, where you start realizing, like Abby said, the weekly review is like a reality check, and it really helps you to figure out your rhythms. because you're like, this doesn't work. Okay, time to try the planning, different this time, for a couple weeks. And so then you start realizing, okay, this is where we're going. This is where we're headed. And the planning then becomes easier and easier because you realize this is the reality and these are my rhythms. And it just becomes a matter of reevaluating those when you do the interval planning to realize, oh, well, now I'm starting school. So the rhythms are going to change a little bit because it's a new school year or whatever is happening. That the intervals are where you can reevaluate because you see what's coming. And you know where you've been and you know where you're going. And the weekly review is just kind of a mini check-in. Like, that's right. Okay, we're still on track. Or, oops, I need to fix that little piece right there because that fell apart, right? So, yeah, so like six to 8 weeks that I really felt like, okay, I'm getting somewhere. And then 6 months, that's when I started really pulling more things in and starting to do the interval planning. And that's when it really started clicking and feeling like, wow, now I'm really like moving forward with all this planning stuff. I'm going somewhere.
Yeah, it's amazing how much traction you really get by just the review and a little bit of planning. Yeah.
I think doing it every week and thinking through the same things and evaluating what actually happened and not only thinking about the future and is what helps you become realistic over time instead of, because I think so often planning is just wishful thinking and like what I want the week to be. I'm going to write down what I want my week to look like. Like you do that a few times and it doesn't work and you're figuring it out. And you do end up figuring out over time, planning with reality.
Yeah. And when you've done it for, like you said, Stefani, 6 to 8 weeks, and then you have an off week because of sickness or a bunch of things happened, you realize that, okay, this is just an off week because I've noticed some patterns and things like that. And okay, so I didn't get my top 3 done. No big deal. We got everyone to the dentist and we got, other things taken care of. So you know what? It's still a win, but it just doesn't look like what I had originally planned. Somebody had said there's, just a lot of grace to move things to the next week. Absolutely. There's no problems with that. Yeah.
Do you have a particular piece of advice or word of encouragement for someone just getting their feet wet with a weekly review?
Smile and start. It's a good motto and it works. And, Mystie, you've gone over this so many times, is you just have to start. You're not going to have a perfect plan in place. And I know there's lots of questions in Convivial Circle about what should I do? What do I need to do? This, that, or the other? Should I do this or not? And I say, well, you know what? Here are the basics. Look at your calendar. Look at what you did last week. Look at the coming week. There you go. That's the basics. Anything else? That's up to you. And there's no, oh, well, so-and-so does this and they've been here longer. They're better off and they're planning, aren't they? And that's just not how it is. You can't copy somebody else's plan and then expect it to, be the answer. You're just going to have to start and do the work. The answer is starting and doing the work. That's unfortunate to hear sometimes, but it's the truth. And the sooner we accept it, the better.
And I think writing it down, like just telling yourself, well, I'm thinking about what happened last week and I'm thinking about what's happening in the future. For whatever reason, actually getting it down onto paper and looking at it is that extra face of reality. And you can see all the things that did happen and you can see that it's like filling up, okay, I'm potty training and we have a new puppy and we, like if all of these things are happening and yet you're like, but I just didn't get any, I didn't get the laundry done. There was always dishes in this sink. And you're like, yeah, I wonder why. Like, it just really helps you to take the wins where they are. And looking back forces that too. Like so many times we can remember all the things we didn't get done and those are mulling over in our thoughts. But when we actually are forced to put it on paper, like all the things that we did accomplish, that was super helpful because I realized I was getting a lot done and I was getting the things that needed to be finished. It didn't necessarily look like I got all my cleaning routines finished. Or it didn't maybe necessarily look like, okay, well, so we had to go out to eat, because disaster happened, the bathroom flooded actually happened. Things do happen where your toddlers leave the faucet on and you're upstairs and you don't realize until the house is flooded. And, and so things just, it's understandable. There are things that are happening. And if we put them on paper, it really makes a difference because you can actually see it. It has to come out of your brain. And so brain dumping, what happened, and, that is really, really helpful. So put it on paper.
Good advice. Start and write it down. And it's sometimes I think we look for that magic answer that's going to feel like, oh, this makes it special or different or official or meaningful. And it's looking at your calendar and what happened and just doing it and writing it down. And so, well, how can that work? But it's like, well, just do it and try it. And it really, really does.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for joining me today and sharing your experiences. And we will keep talking about the weekly reviews. If you have any questions for Abby or Stefani, they're in the monthly topic channel, and you can start a conversation and keep it going. So thanks, everyone. Bye.